house needs painting, the grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Hey everybody, I'm Hank Parker. Welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. So today I have got my hero, my absolute hero, as a guest. I am so excited. Please make welcome my buddy, my fishing partner, my hero, Mr. Clay Dyer. Hello, Clay.
Hey, Hank. Good morning. I think you got the hero part reversed, brother. You're my hero.
Hey, I appreciate that, but I don't know anybody that I respect as much as I respect you for persevering, defying all odds, and pushing through the most difficult situation you could possibly be faced with and do it successfully. Man, what a hero you are. How in the world do you do what you do? I have 10 million questions, but that is one that I want to start with. How in the world do you do what you do?
Well, Hank, thank you, buddy. It all comes back to my faith in God and Jesus is my Savior, and He gives me the strength. Every day. You've known me long enough to know that one of my life verses is Philippians 4:13, and says I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, and it's how we face the adversity we face every day. That's how we overcome it, and man, it's I told thousands and thousands of people, if not millions, that I've got a lot of very close personal friends that are well known and famous or championship athletes, but it's when I met you years ago and I watched your TV show, Fishing with Hank Parker, and one of the things I always loved about your shows at the end of it, you would always say, "God bless you, I'm Hank Parker," and I always tried to emulate my career and after the way you handled yourself, and you've been a huge mentor and a huge you gave me a lot of advice over the years, buddy, and you've helped me out more than you'll ever know.
Well, let's start off. How in the world, here you are in a wheelchair, uh, no arms to cast with. How in the world did you ever decide I want to go fishing?
Well, it's funny that you said that because I love how you and I are. We just shoot it straight to each other, and it's funny that you asked that because somebody asked my dad and mother one time, if they taught me, how to fish, and both of them kind of looked at the camera and they were like, well, we were always there for him and said we weren't like him, and it was hard to teach him. And I said that in a TV interview a while back. I said, well, nobody was like me, so it was kind of hard for anybody to really teach me. And so what I did a lot, as a kid, Hank, like you, when you grow up in a town about 5,000 people, we didn't have J.C. Penney's and stuff to go to, and I wasn't a city boy and a mall boy anyway. I was all about hunting and fishing and playing sports. And when you grow up in the country, and your granddaddy's got a catfish pond like mine did. It started the passion early on, but then I would watch guys like you on television and said, man, I'd love to do that. And so with that being said, I basically went and got the rods and reels and would watch other people do it, and I would try it, and if it didn't feel just right, it'd be just like trying to pattern a bass. I'd try something that, wouldn't seem just right. And I said, nope, that ain't going to be it. And I'd get rid of that. And I just, through trial and error of what was comfortable and what felt the best, is what I tried to take and run with it.
That is crazy. Let's go back to the first experience. Now, you've shared with me this story before, but there were kids in your neighborhood fishing, and you went down, they invited you, and you got out of your wheelchair and rolled down to the pond. And and started fishing. Did they give you a rod to hold, or did they hook the fish? How did that work?
I carried my own Zebco down there, and of all things, the way I actually threw it, it was I know that this tells both of our age. The old pistol grip rods. It was old pistol grip 5.5 footer, and I'll never forget sitting there, watching them press the button with their thumb, and then casting it. And I thought, okay, how am I gonna do this? So I turned it upside down, and I put my hand, right there where the line came out of the front cover of the reel, and I pressed the button with my chin, and I kind of buried the little rod handle, the pistol grip, between my neck and my collarbone, and I threw a spin caster like a spinning reel, and I was like, you know what? It might not be real attractive, but it's effective, and it works.
That is the most amazing feat, just to be able to cast, let alone catch a fish. Now, I'm going to tell you, we showed a little footage before I brought you on of you and I down at Lake Caroline fishing. And you were
Uh-huh.
throwing top water bait right next to the bank, under the bushes. Unbelievable. And to be able to accomplish that is just mind boggling.
Well, it's like anything else, Hank. I tell a lot of high school and college kids. I was actually just up at Concordia University up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, this past Monday night doing a seminar to a bunch of athletes. And I was telling them, I said, when you look at some of the greatest athletes that's ever lived or they're currently living and that won world championships, um, yes, they were blessed with God-given abilities and talents, but yet, those athletes didn't get that great overnight. It was a combination of God-given ability and want to and drive and working at it to get to be that great. And with my fishing, it was the same way. I to this day, I have those days where I feel like if I standing on the beach, it's hard to hit the ocean. But I have those days where thankfully, where as I tell my wife, I'm in the zone, I'm in my groove, and when I'm going down the bank, I can pretty much look out there and feel like if I see that coffee cup, I can put it in it, on the first cast, and that's the kind of days, that's the kind of groove I hope I'm in anytime I'm competing.
If we were really fair, life is not fair. Nothing is fair. And I thank God that He's not fair, because if He was fair, I'd be in hell. But He is full of grace. He is full of grace and mercy. And so that's what I am so thankful for. But as
Yes.
we try to figure out fairness, golf, they give handicaps. If you're certain age and you just turn in so many scorecards, they give you a handicap. And so you get to play against a scratch golfer, and you've got so many strokes that are allowed to you to offset his superiority to you. And if we were to be completely honest and fair, if we were to issue you the handicap that you deserve, if you caught a fish, you'd win every tournament, because it's more of a challenge for what you go through than it is for any of the rest of the field. I mean, just getting up, getting in the boat, how much work. I watched you tie on a lure when we fished together. It took 30 minutes, and you so patiently, just as if that were normal. I would be flipping out. If I were you, I'd be in a room somewhere feeling sorry for myself. Oh, I am feeling so sorry. But you have never, ever been there from the time I've known you. You've always had the attitude that, hey, I'm here, this is me, and in spite of all the odds, I'm going to perform and do what I want to do to become a professional fisherman. Unbelievable.
Well, Hank, I really appreciate that. That's for you to see that attribute and that quality, that God has given me, means the world to me. Because, like you said, if we were all given what we deserve from what we have started out at. In God's word it says we've all fallen short and are sinners. We've all fallen short of the glory of God, and thank God to Him. He has given us grace sufficient for all, and like you were saying, I just thank the Lord that He blessed me with that attitude, with that gift. I heard my brother say a long time ago, and it didn't really hit me when he said it at the time. 'Cause at the time, I was probably in my early 20s. I was still young, dumb, and an idiot. But at the time, they asked my brother. They said, of everything that you could give him, what would you gift him if you could give him anything? And my brother looked at the camera and he said, "Well, the obvious answer would be a set of arms and legs, but he wouldn't want that." And I didn't really. Well, I knew what he meant by that, but then the next question out of his, or the next answer, he said, they asked my brother. They said, "Have you ever seen him have a time in his life talking about me that he needed motivation?" And my brother looked right at the camera and he said, "No." He said, "Absolutely not." He said, you know, he's never needed motivated. He's just always, been motivated within. But Hank, I think a big part, a lot of that motivation, probably the biggest part of that to me comes from, and I think you have the same thing in your heart and your soul. When people come to you and you're just doing your everyday life that you feel like you're purposed and that God's called you to do, and people come to you and tell you things like, they were in a bad, dark place, and um, that life wasn't good, and that they were thinking about doing some terrible things, and then all of a sudden they said they see you, and it caused them to get a different perspective and turn their life around. And I tell folks all the time, when we're out ministering, that people ask me what motivates me to do what I do, and they say, "Is it the money? Is it the fame? Is it the notoriety? Is it all that?" And I said, "Honestly, no." I said, to me, all those things are neat and cool, and you got to have, you got to make money to make the world go around. But at the end of the day, that's not what motivates me. What motivates me is being able to see, where we've made a positive, eternal difference, in somebody else's life.
That is so cool. I want to go back. It's a little over 20 years ago, and we tried to figure out the date, you and I, just a couple of weeks ago, when it was when we first met, but it was over 20 years ago. And you were just a young, scrapping lad. And I tell people all the time the number one requirement for becoming a professional angler is you got to love the sport. You got to absolutely love to fish. And so a little
Absolutely.
over 20 years ago, you came and joined me. We did a television show down in Alabama, and you came and joined me, and I saw how much on the water that day, that was long before you were professional, how much you loved to fish. And so you fell in love with fishing in a catfish pond near your house. Where did that first begin?
It did. It was actually sitting in my granddad's lap on the bank of his catfish pond. He had two catfish ponds, and that was kind of a little side source of income for him. Plus, we just loved eating catfish, and so he put me on his lap and kind of taught me to do that. And then I still love catfishing to this day. I don't get to do it as much as I used to. But my precious wife that you've met, Kim, she loves catfishing, and it's kind of a joke now that if we're going catfishing in my tour boat, our son Brandon, he calls me Hammer. He'll say, "Hammer, you gonna let Mama catfish out of your tour boat and get the slime in there?" And I'm like, "Son, that's what a pressure washer's for. It'll get it out." But I love it started the fire back years ago, and I guess in I love playing sports, Hank. I played t-ball and middle school baseball and basketball and football. But when I was looking at, like a lot of kids want to be a professional athlete, I wanted to do that. did I think that the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball was going to look at me and draft me? In all reality, they didn't know me, but I wasn't going to let the possibility of them trying to control my destiny. I wasn't going to let that control my destiny, and I felt like fishing was that avenue that I could take all the way to the top. And, praise the Lord now for 28 years, I've been from, I started out on the state level and then the regional level, then, went up, started my career with the Bass Federation, then went over to FLW and, had a great 10-year run with FLW, then switched over to Bass and, just like you said, man, but it all goes back to, the love of chasing a little green fish and trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle, to give yourself an opportunity to be successful.
If I didn't know you, had I not seen you cast a rod and reel, and you're sitting there telling me you shot a basketball or you swung a baseball bat playing t-ball, I'd say there is no way. Looking at you, there is no way you could do that. But after watching you cast a rod and reel, it wouldn't surprise me anything you did. I mean, it's amazing. It is so difficult to make those casts and do what you can do. And I've got 2 arms, 2 hands, everything in place that I need. That's what the rods were designed for guys like me. They were not designed for guys like you. But yet you take the same rod and reel that I use and cast that thing up there next to the bank and catch bass. It's mind-boggling.
Well, Hank, I'll tell you, my days of playing sports, I tell folks when I'm speaking these days, I tell folks, I said, if you look up under the Alabama High School Athletic Association record books, you won't find my name next to, the most 3-pointers or the most 50-yard touchdown passes or the most, home runs hit. I said, but you will find me by the shortest and the slowest that ever played.
Well, let me just tell you this, Clay, just for me and you, and just for the record, and I want everybody to know this. When people ask me, who is the single greatest athlete that you know? It's without a doubt, whether it's fishing, whether it's t-ball, whether it's basketball, the greatest athlete that I've ever met and ever known in my life is Clay Dyer. There is nobody even comes close to Clay Dyer. And to do what you do and to have the attitude that you have, it's just such an inspiration. And it is such a real event to watch you do what you do. Let's just start off. What happens in the morning? You've got a bass tournament. Now, you've got to be in a wheelchair. You've got to have a special vehicle to drive. You've got a special boat to drive. How big a hassle is it for you just to get up in the morning and do what is so routine for a guy that can walk and a guy that's got arms and a guy, I mean, it's just so easy for us, but it's an adventure and a challenge for you just to get started. Kind of walk us through a day of Clay Dyer's competition.
Hank, I'm so blessed, in that regard. I've got an amazing wife, and she makes sure that whether it's my lunch is packed and all that to make is like she always says. She wants to do everything she can do to make my life when I'm competing, because she knows what I give it on the water. Trying to be successful for us, trying to provide for us and our grands. And but when I get up in the morning, about the only things I really need assistance with, honestly, and this is something that we're working toward, but I need assistance. She helps me get dressed, or whoever is traveling with me just helps me get dressed, put on my pants, and I can get them. It just takes a lot longer for me, so they help me get dressed. And once we go out the door, as you said, I do have I'm very blessed to be sponsored by Bill Penny Automotive, which they own a Toyota dealership and a Ford dealership. So I've got a Bill Penny Ford F-150 that's the state of Tennessee equipped. It's got a computerized system, and it's got the standard steering wheel. But it's got a deal on the door, like a joystick deal that I put my left shoulder in to do the accelerator and the brake. It's got kind of what looks like an iPad screen to the right, where I do various things with it to help control the different things of the truck. And then, but to get in that truck, I've got a remote control that my driver's seat comes down, and just so I don't have to struggle trying to crawl and climb up in there. So I step over in that driver's seat. I've got a crane thing that I hooked to my wheelchair and put it in the truck. As far as hooking the boat up, man, I pretty much like you. I just roll back there in my chair, and when I'm backed up under it, I roll back there and roll down on the hitch, and I usually put a pair of pliers in my mouth. If I'm hooking the safety chain and stuff up with that to get everything hooked up. As far as launching, if I'm by myself, which more, 90% of the time, I've got somebody with me, whether it's the guy traveling with me or whoever, that will actually, to save that time, actually backs me down. But if I'm by myself, basically, I will go ahead and undo the transom straps and take off the motor support and stuff so I'm not blocking the ramp. And then I'll back down. And thankfully, with our Minn Kota, our Raptors, the shallow water anchoring systems, I'll back down, in the edge of the water. I'll have to unload my chair, go out there and do the boat winch, the trailer winch, get back in the truck, ease the boat off in the water. And, if it's too deep for the shallow water anchors, then I either use one of those Z-launch cords and I'll pull it up, or I'll deploy the trolling motor and steer it over to the dock. I'll go park the truck, then get back in my chair and drive down there. And if it's not going to be raining, I'll just leave my chair, either on the dock or over beside the walkway and walk down and get in the boat. And then, if I have to do that, I will try to leave a note so if somebody doesn't freak out and walk down to the ramp and think somebody fell out of a chair and drowned or something. So, I try to leave a note on my wheelchair of, hey, I'm out fishing, I'm good, I'll be back. So, and then, when you get back, it's kind of the same deal. I just get out of the boat, get my chair, back the truck in, load it up, and kind of the same deal. And when I get the boat out of the water, I've actually got a board that I will usually put down into my chair and either walk off the boat down in there, or depending on where I can park the chair, if it's close enough to the water, a lot of times I'll go up on the front of the boat and just slide off the boat down in my chair and then get in the truck and pull it out. But that's as far as launching and getting started in the morning. But if I'm doing it by myself, that's how I do it. But if when I've got somebody, I'll back it down by the water, and they'll usually grab me out of the truck and throw me on their shoulder like you have, and throw me over in the boat like a sack of taters, and we're off to the races.
Let me reiterate all that. So you drive your own truck, and they've made this thing where you can use your accelerator and your brakes with your shoulders.
Yes.
Yeah, that is crazy. All right, so you go to all that, you get in your truck, you drive yourself to the ramp. You get out of the truck with your device, with your wheelchair. You go undo the straps on the back of your boat. You take your motor toter off. You do all of that all by yourself. Then you slide down, you get the boat in the water, you get back in the truck, then you slide back out of the truck, and then you get in the wheelchair, you come to the ramp, you leave your wheelchair on the dock, you slide in the boat. How do you operate the boat?
Well, it's and that's the part that I'd left out on accident. In the boat, my boat is not. A lot of people think it's actually it's actually a lot less modified than the truck. My boat, thankfully, with Skeeter and Yamaha, I don't have a hot foot in the floorboard. I run my throttle with the throttle stick. But the only thing really different about my boat than any other boat you can go by is I have a portable platform that's made out of aircraft aluminum and plywood, and is carpeted, that I sit down in the floorboard that goes between the driver's seat and that step up on the front deck, just so it's faster. When I'm fishing and running and gunning, covering a lot of water, instead of me, jumping out of the floorboard and crawling up on the front deck, I pretty much just walk like you would walk and step up on the deck and get up on the trolling motor and run my trolling motor like any foot control, and then get back. And when I sit down to crank
Whoa,
up, I
whoa,
just use the end
whoa,
of my arm to
whoa,
turn
whoa, 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 whoa.
it.
A foot control troll motor?
Oh yes.
You use a foot control troll motor?
I'm too old fashioned. I have to do it just like you do it. I don't want anybody to ever look at me and say, "Man, this guy's got special adaptations." Yeah, I've got thankfully to the Minn Kota Oil Terra, man, it makes life a breeze for me.
That is unbelievable. I always wondered, I've never had you run the troll motor in my boat. I started to ask you last time we fished. I'm amazed that you can run. I want some footage of you. Well, we're going to fish again. I'm going to have you run the boat. I want to see. That is unbelievable. A normal,
uh,
I'll go back. I'll go back to our first fishing trip, and I got a couple stories. I was amazed that you didn't have all these modified rods and reels. I figured you had stuff that would strap on your back and a harness and maybe a chin piece. Man, you just had a rod and reel that looked like mine. It's crazy.
mine just hadn't caught as many as yours had.
I don't know about that. But hey, I'm telling you, you didn't want a custom made rod and reel. You told me that because I asked you. I said, "Can they not make?" I don't want none of that stuff. I want to be able to use. I want to be able to use your stuff, or I don't want modified. I want to be able to fish with them like they come out of the box. I don't want to be anything special. That blew me away. And of course, you still do that today, I assume.
Oh yeah, I do. And a lot of people, I know they mean it out of pure generosity and trying to help, but I've had a lot of people been like, they'll see me do a video and or that Kim will post on Facebook or something, and they'll say, man, I build special. Let me build you something to make life easier. And what they don't realize, I've always prided Hank in my career that I've never wanted people to say or be able to say, Clay fishes the Bassmasters or FLW because he has special adaptations to his equipment that allow him to compete. I've always wanted to look and say, you know what? He may have a half arm, but he uses the same stuff that all the other guys use. And I've always prided myself in, them not saying that I had to have a special way to do it to be able to do it.
That just blows me away, Clay. And I want to go back again. I keep going forward and backward, but I'm blown away. I'll just be completely honest. And I want our viewers and our listeners to realize who you are and the challenges that you face, and you just take it with a grain of salt. I mean, you just don't think you're special. Let me just tell you right now, you're special. You are so special and you don't think that. And that is humility. You are a humble person. If I had your challenges in life, and I could do what you do, I'd be the braggingest guy you've ever seen in the world. I'd be bragging all the time. Look at me, I'm the world's best. I mean, but I'm gonna circle back, and I'm gonna go back to the first time you and I met, and we went fishing. And when you showed up, your mom brought you over. This was before you were driving. You were just a young, scrapping lad, and you asked me, you said, what do you think they're going to be biting tomorrow? I had no idea that you were going to go back to your room and spend 3 hours tying on fishing lures. I did not understand that. So I told you the baits that I thought they would bite. And one of the baits was a spinner bait. Was a spinner bait. Well, when we got up that next morning, there was no wind whatsoever. So I told you, I said, Clay, I believe that you can take that spinnerbait off and put on the top water. And you agreed.
Right.
And so you took that spinnerbait off and started tying on the top water, using your tongue, using your chin, using your stub, and doing all this stuff. And I mean, it was an act of Congress, man. It was so much work, and you're rolling that thing, and it's got all these hooks on it, and I'm a nervous wreck. And I said, Clay, let me tie that bait on. And you looked at me and said, I can tie my own bait on. I said, I know, but I can tie it on faster. And you said, we're not in a race. And you spent
I remember
30
that.
minutes tying that bait on, and you would not allow me to help you. You tied your own bait on.
I remember
That
that
was
very well.
important.
I remember that very well. And the funny thing is, I'm still like that today, in about every way. But I have, when it comes to tying on baits, Lord knows, in a tournament day with 8 hours, I have had to learn over the years how to get as efficient with my time as I can. But you're right. And I remember doing that. And then later on that day, me and you were crushing them. And, I mean, I remember you picking up a jig, and I didn't have a jig tied on it. You called a bigger jig, and I started getting behind, and then I looked at you and I said, Hank, I said, you mind saving time and tying this on? You said, oh, no, 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 you get it yourself, you faster.
All right. Let me tell that story. Let me tell that story. It was so funny. It was so funny. Of course, I tried to help Clay tie this bait on in the morning, and he said, no, 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 I can tie my own bait on. So I said, yeah, but I can do it faster. He says to me, hey, we're not in a race. I said, okay. So we go out, we get on the lake, and he throws a jig and catches a big fish. And man, he fights this fish, and I'm blown away. I'm just sitting there watching this guy with no arms, no legs, catching a big bass and being Joe Cool. Man, I mean, he's fighting that thing, and I'm marveling because I already thought that morning, what's going to happen if he hooks a big bass? There's no way he can fight and catch a big bass. That can't happen. I mean, but it did. And he caught this big bass. And I threw in there and I hooked one and I said, Clay, throw back in there, throw back in there. They're stacked up. So he throws back in there and he hooks a big bass and it breaks his line. And I'm fighting this big bass and I'm smiling and I'm laughing. And I said, boy, they're stacked in there. He said, tie me on the jig, tie me on the jig, tie me on the jig. I said, no, no, no. You can tie your own bait on. Yeah, but you can tie it faster. You can tie it faster. I said, oh, we're not in a race. And you looked at me and you said, people like you go to Hades.
I remember distinctly, and I wished I can see his face, but I wish I could remember your at that time your camera. I think his name was Kerry, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yep. Gary
I knew
C.
you and I hit it off right off the bat, and I knew that we would be dear friends and brothers for life. And but I remember Kerry looking at me, and we were backing the trailer down, and then I think that was the first national fishing show I'd ever filmed, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember Kerry looking at me and he said, listen, he said, give Hank grief and don't cut him any slack. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't really know exactly how far to take that. And then I realized real quick, like, you and I were just gonna hit it off and just have a ball. And then the last time we filmed in Lake Caroline, I could not help but just I was up there about to roll after him. You was giving Jordan down the road back there on the back of the boat, and but we've had so many good times over the years, and I remember very distinctly though. You said no, no, we're not in a race. You tie your own jig on.
Well, just for the
Oh,
record, I want everybody to know I did stop and tie you on the jig. I did do that. I was
yes,
cutting up. But we had so much fun, and you caught as many fish that day as I did, and I was just in awe, and still in awe today. I mean, it just blows me away. And you told me a story about getting your first professional rod and reel, getting your dad to buy it, and when you gave him the catalog and he saw how much it cost, he figured you didn't need that rod and reel. Tell us that story a little bit about how you went about getting that first rod and reel.
yeah, I like a lot of kids, my parents kind of raised me up, and they were blue collar workers, and they provided everything we needed, and me and my brother were good kids. They provided most everything we wanted, But we kind of had a system in our house of we would do chores and errands, and we would earn allowance money, and so I'd saved up my allowance money, and I'd bought probably a half a dozen bait casters and a few spinning rods and reels, and I was 13 years old, and it was about 2 weeks before I was turning 14, and I think they probably still do it today, but back then, Bass Pro Shops had this spring sale, and we just got the big old spring sale catalog, and I'm flipping through it, and I see this rod and reel that was ordinarily like right at $700. So it was 50% off, so it was only $350. Well, my dad and mom back then, when they would get in from work, mom usually came in and started preparing dinner, so we could have family dinner. And dad would usually come in and turn on the ESPN Sports Center and get the Birmingham News newspaper. And so I'm sitting there looking through my magazine, and I see or my catalog, and I see this rod and reel, and I remember looking over at Dad, thinking, "Okay, Daddy's watching Sports Center, and he's got the newspaper, so I've got two strikes against me." And I look over at him and I said, "Dad," I said, "you see this rod and reel?" And he said, "Yes, son." And I said, "Well, my birthday's in about 2 weeks." And he said, "Well, son, I'm your daddy. I know when your birthday is." And I said, "Well, I'd like to have this rod and reel." And he said, "Well, how much is it?" And I said, "Well, ordinarily, it was about $700, but it's 50% off on a sale." So I said, "It's only $350." And he looks at me and he said, "Son, I love you, but I don't care if it's your birthday or Christmas. I'm not spending $350." Well, I, being the 13-year-old snotty nosed brat that I was, I didn't take the word no real well. And I kept begging and pleading when Dad got rather aggravated at me. And he pulls his belt off and folded his belt in half and popped it. And I knew that meant that I was about to get my rear end tore up. So I kind of just, quietened down and let him cool off a little bit. And I kept thinking, and I thought, man, I really want this rod and reel. And so I kind of got to thinking, of the consequences I would probably face. And it's like I tell kids to this day when I tell this story, to kids, look, do not try this at home. But I thought about the consequences. And when I thought about the consequences versus the rod and reel, my desire to have that rod and reel won over. And I remember looking at my dad and I said, "Dad, I want you to think about something." And he looked at me and like, "Are you kidding me right now? I've done told you no." And I said, "Daddy, I want you to think about all the money I've saved you in 13 years not having to buy me shoes." So he reached in his wallet and pulled out a credit card and he said, "Order that rod and reel, and I don't want to hear another word out of you." And so the only thing I said to him the rest of the night was, "Good night, I love you," and because I didn't think he'd whip me for that. And he didn't, and we got the rod and reel, and we didn't even get a spanking. And then Dad went to bed a little early that night, and Mama looked over at me, and she said, "Well, you and I are close, right?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Well, just be glad I didn't tell your dad the money you saved us in shoes. I had to buy you shorts because you walk cold and all of yours."
That is such a story, man. I laugh every time I think about that. And boy, you put him on the spot now. That would make anybody buy a rod and reel. That is so good, man. That's pretty witty. You took a risk, but it paid off. You got that $700 rod and reel. Did you catch a fish on it?
Oh, yeah, it's called a mini fish.
Where is that rod and reel now?
It was at my parents' old place, and for years, and they had a big flood hit about 6 or 7 years ago, and it was in the basement, and a lot of stuff that was in the basement, they had old VHS tapes and stuff. They got washed away, and unfortunately, I think it got washed away in that flood because we haven't located it since. But it carried a lot of good memories with it, buddy. I tell you that.
Man, I'm telling you, I wish we could put that on display at the museum at the Bass Pro Shops. That would be awesome to do a Clay Dyer display and put that rod and reel you got from your dad. That would be awesome. Well, what you got going on next now? In the bass division, do you fish? Do you have your entry fees? They waive that, or do you still have to pay entry fees?
Currently, we're still paying entry fees on the opens level. That's something that, of course, anybody with what we're striving for in this sport, anybody would love, if they are at that level, would love to see it just as they did at the elite level. And so we're hoping to see that. But yes, we're still. Matter of fact, just this past Monday, I actually had to make the call from the airport because I wasn't around a computer, and paid up my deposits to fish next year, and I'm already confirmed in. And so we're kind of like we were when you were here a little over a month ago, speaking for us for our foundation banquet dinner. We're trying to we just started our new home last week. They just poured the concrete, and they just delivered the materials last night. They're going to start framing this coming week, the week of Thanksgiving, and so we're in the process of building our new home out here on our property that God has blessed us with, and for the foundation. And I'm, trying to get some things in and ordered, and ready to go for next year. Since all of our belongings are in the bay where the boat's going to go, my boat will be outside under a cover for a little while, or else I'm gonna con my stepson in to let me park it beside his over in his shop, and because I let him park his beside mine in our old house we lived in when he was building the shop. So I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna say, all right, clean the bay out. I'm bringing the boat over there, and now he's already told me. He said, man, come bring your boat over here till you get your bay ready. So we're getting ready for next year, man. And you know how it is, man. The off season, it's downtime with the family, and spending time with family and enjoying the holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it won't be long. We'll be getting ready to get 25 kicked off, and praying and looking forward to a huge year next year, Hank.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to circle back again. I've been doing that the whole show. I go forward and then I back up. But you talking
It's
about your
all good.
foundation. I want to talk about that a little bit. It's called the Clay Dyer Foundation. And I came over, it's been about a month ago, I guess. And you did your first banquet. And I was privileged to be the speaker there. And I'm very grateful for that. But I asked you, and I was really impressed with Kim, your sweetheart, your wife, your baby doll, your soulmate, your partner, your business partner, your ambassador. She is so big and such a big part of your life. She's a little girl, but she is big in stature for all the things she does. But I asked you the question, why did you start the Clay Dyer Foundation? And you said to me, which made me feel about this big, you said to me, because I've been so blessed, I want to give back. And Kim, your wife, said it's a twofold ministry. We want to be able to help the caretakers, and she knows that role very well. We want to
Yes.
be able to help the people that need the help, but we also want to be a part of taking care of all the caretakers who very rarely get very much credit for all the sacrifice and the things that they do behind the scenes. So the Clay Dyer Foundation is in place to help whom and to help the caretakers. What is your goal with the Clay Dyer Foundation? Who do you want to help?
Well, Hank, and if it's all good with you, since I've got my precious bride right here, I'd love to bring her in just for a moment. And I think
Absolutely.
nobody could do that better than her. But I'll say this while she's coming over. God put this vision in us a couple of years ago, and I really, you know we wanted to be able to give back in so many ways, and we were just praying of how God would direct that, and His purpose behind that. And we were both talking about wanting to give back to special needs people, and their caretakers, because I do a lot of stuff with Jay Ellis with Cast for Kids, and in doing that, it's just it blesses me to see special needs people and people in general that maybe have not been offered that opportunity to put a smile on their face because of hard times, or because of they hadn't been able to see their desires come true yet. And to be able to see a kid catch a first fish or kill a deer, or just whatever their desires are, or the people, whatever their desires are, to help make that come true. And also, Hank, let's just be real. Kim and I, you and Martha, dude, we're so stinking blessed that there's a lot of people that don't know where their next meal is going to come from. It's just like I told my wife the other day. Um, we're not in a position of not knowing where our next meal will come from. It's up to us to decide what we want to eat. Not, are we going to get, a potted meat sandwich? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but with all that being said, we originally kind of started out um, focusing on special needs and their caretakers, and then God, just as God does everything, He just exploded it, and we've been able to even help, some of the people in the hurricane victims, up in there in your area. And but with that being said, my precious wife is right here, and I'm gonna bring her in on the set. Come on in.
I'm going to sit down with him on his chair.
Oh, that is so awesome. That is so awesome.
Get up close and
Baby,
personal
come on.
with him.
You're on the edge of the seat, honey.
Oh,
Come
you're
here.
fine. You're fine. I'm good. I think he said it great, Hank. I really do. I just want everybody to know that we have a special project for Christmas. It's actually called the Hope and Peace Christmas Project. Clay didn't even know the name of it. We both just got over a little bit of an illness, but yeah, we're excited about that because we're going to be helping families that don't have the means to buy their kids Christmas. They don't have the means to put a ham or a turkey on the table. So we already have two very special families picked out, and anybody can donate. And if you can't donate financially, so many people feel bad about that, and we're like, your prayers mean everything to us. So, and like you were asking, who is this for? It's for people who are hurting and they've come across a bad time. I mean, at one time I was a single mom. I knew those hard times. I think we've all at some point in our lives known those hard times, and we want to share what God has blessed us with other people.
That is such a noble position. And let me ask you, if someone wanted to make a donation to the Clay Dyer Foundation, how would they do that?
They would do that. We have two ways that you can do it online, or I say online. Neither of us are real tech savvy. I do my best, Hank, but they can go to PayPal, and very simple, Clay Dyer Fishing at gmail.com. I always forget the at Gmail, so I remembered that time. Clay Dyer Fishing at gmail.com.
I thought that was the Clay Dyer Foundation.
You can do either one.
Okay.
You can do Clay Dyer Fishing, or you can do to make it easy because of the foundation, you can do Clay Dyer Foundation at gmail.com. Also,
that is great.
Also we have Square. A lot of people use Square now. And it is Clay Dyer Foundation at gmail.com. Or if they want to simply write this down, it is P.O. Box 183, Hazel Green, Hazel, Hazel Green, Alabama 35750. And they can send it. They can reach out to us on Facebook, either at just Clay Dyer on his Fishing Pro page or the Clay Dyer Foundation page, and we can tell them exactly how to get the funds to us. So,
okay, we'll post that on the screen when we finish the podcast. We'll post that on the screen and give you an address where you can make a donation. Guys, let me tell both of you, you guys are very special. You are special. Clay never wanted to be special. Well, he's special. And Kim, so are you. I am so proud of you guys. I want your foundation to prosper. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your friendship. And I just want what is best for you guys. You have inspired me. You've inspired the world, and how awesome you guys are. And just know that this guy, Hank Parker, thinks you two are special. And I just want to say, God bless you. And I hope that everything works out for you. Clay, I hope you win a tournament this year, buddy. Go get them. And we'll be praying for you and thinking about you. And we'll be supporting everything you do with your foundation. And just to end this little podcast, I just want to say thank you for being a special guest, and God bless the both of you.
Thank you, Hank. You mean the world to both of us. I really mean that.
Yes, Hank. Thank you, brother.
Man,
I'm sorry. I'm slipping. I almost made it.
we Hank, thank you, man. I'm glad we were able to make today work out. And I've always told you, anytime you need me, man, or want me, I'm here for you. And you've as I said at the start of the show, you've always been a mentor of mine, and I've tried to model my career after you. And you're to me, you're a champion in the gospel. You're a legend in the gospel, along with outdoors. And I've always looked up to you as a personal friend and a brother. And it's been a ball. I knew it would be. And we're gonna have to get together. You let me know when you're ready. We're gonna have a pond down here that we can even film in when we get ready to do that. But you get ready to come film on the Tennessee River or go film on Tim's Ford or somewhere, man, you let me know. It'd be my honor, and we'll go have a ball, brother.
We'll get that new house built to get the guest bedroom ready for me, because I'm coming. We're going fishing, my brother. Hey, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. And
God bless.
all right, I'm listening. All right, we'll see you down the road. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful holiday, okay? God bless you.
You too, brother. Have a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thank you, my buddy. Hey, and thank you for joining us today with Off the Water with Hank Parker. Man, what a great guy is my hero, Clay Dyer. And I look forward to going fishing with him down the road. And I appreciate you tuning in. And we'll be back next week. So be sure and put it on your record or save it or subscribe. Do anything you can. And I want to remind you about Huckleberry Apparel. We're trying to help high school kids raise money to be able to support their team efforts. So go to huckleberryapparel.com, click on fishing, and look up high school fishing and get all these teams signed up where we can get this program started. So again, thank you for being with me. God bless you. I'll see you next week. I'm Hank Parker.